Hello, everyone. Today I am joined by the fancy graph king, Bryan Bastin of On the Forecheck, and we are going to talk all about the wild card race, the Flames defense and goaltending issues, as well as some comparables on the Nashville Predators.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Flames. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm your host, Jess Belmosto, joined with Bryan from On the Forecheck. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make sure that you are signing up for FanDuel with you get $150 free worth of bets when you place $5 down. It's a great deal. I would tell you to make a bet, but I told you all to bet on Cincinnati. And well, Bryan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I've had a long drought of Nashville not playing. They've been done for a few days now, and so I've got like a week and a half just kind of sitting and watching the handful of teams that are still playing. But it's it's midway through the season. The teams are about average, and so it's kind of like, well, it's gonna go one of two ways. So it's just a matter of waiting and seeing what happens.
Yeah, I was thinking about that last night. I was like, oh, I have like a week to myself. My evenings are just freed up. What do I do? Like, do I read a book? Do I fold some laundry? What do we do?
Yeah, I mean, I learned my lesson a couple years back to never, like, the Predators might be on a break, so I was like, well, I'm gonna go out of town for a few days, and I was getting ready to like pick up my daughters, I think, and I was sitting in the parking lot, and that's when they fired Peter Laviolette. And so I was sitting in there in the parking lot, like I was the only person around. So I'd sit there and type an article out on my phone and tweet from the account and stuff. And so it's like, yeah, I should have learned my lesson that they never, get too comfortable with the thought that, you know what, I'm not going to have to do anything with hockey today.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is like the teams might be off, but the managers in front office are always working.
Yes, they are. As we saw today.
Yeah, I was just going to say with the Horvat trade, and we're just whatever, it's not our team.
Yeah, I mean, it was surprising just because I hadn't heard anything really.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of makes sense if you look at Lou and what he does, but it wasn't one that I was expecting. But I'll also say that I've been 4.5 years covering now, and I don't remember the month before the trade deadline being this quiet. And like I haven't heard really anything. It's all the same rumors that we heard last year as far as with Nashville, and it's the same people that you'd think. So yeah. And so it's kind of like, what's is that going to actually happen? Is it not? Is anything going to happen? You never know. Things can come completely out of left field.
Like the Tyler Toffoli trade last year for the Flames. That was I was standing in my kitchen making lunch, and then I saw the Elliot Friedman notification. I was like, wait, Tyler Toffoli?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was such a good pickup too. And yeah. But I will say too, it's like, it is funny because there's a handful of people that I have like notifications for like anything that comes through, text, calls, whatever. And Frege is one of them. And that's kind of, I don't know if that makes me feel good or bad about the state of my life, or it's like, if he starts tweeting, I'm like, I need to know now. So I can't wait.
That's the thing. And like we talked, Nick and I talked about this last week, and how hockey reporting has become so transactional. Like it's not necessarily the deep storylines and like who these players are, but there's like a rush that I get, like this rush of like adrenaline and dopamine when noon on July 1st. Well, whenever free agency is, I think it goes back to July 1 this year, but like you're just so excited, like, all right, this is time. And then any trade, I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably speaks to how much my life revolves around hockey. And I don't know how people can just be casual fans of this.
I mean, I will say this, that there are nights that when I'm watching hockey that's not the Predators, it is kind of nice to watch it with no stake and no like responsibility. But
Yeah.
it also has the usual effect of I get to watch another team be good at something and I'm like, ugh, like I want that. Like I would like to watch that for once.
No, exactly. Or you watch them make a mistake and immediately correct it instead
Mhm.
of either overcorrecting or just being like, huh, yeah, that didn't happen.
Yeah, it's yeah, we must have pretty similar experiences this season, I imagine.
Yeah, I would say so. I think at least your team can beat the Flames.
Yeah, yeah, twice now. One more game left, which was surprising. Both games were kind of surprising to me. So,
Yeah. No, I was very surprised. I believe it was this most recent game. I
mhm,
thought that the Flames were going to go in and win.
mhm,
Um, they had kind of been piecing themselves back together and picking themselves back up, but they love to do this thing where it's kind of like a toddler, where
mhm.
you tell them to do something and they just hear the exact opposite. And I
Yeah,
think that's kind of where the Flames have been at
mhm.
and throughout the season, but I love the Predators. You know that I love
Yeah,
Nashville.
of
I love the
course.
city. I love the state of Tennessee,
Uh-huh.
but watching them play hockey, even
Mhm.
if it's not against the Flames, I'm
It's
like
frustrating. It
pulling
can
my
be very
hair.
frustrating.
Yes.
And that was kind of one of the things that surprised me because I was at Bridgestone for that most recent game, and the thing that really stood out to me is, I'm well aware of kind of what Nashville looks like and when things are clicking and when they're not. Uh, but it felt like even though it was just a 2-1 game, like it never felt like Calgary was in the game, and that's very surprising because Nashville doesn't do that to a lot of teams.
Yeah.
And it was like a low scoring game, but that's kind of the kind of hockey that Nashville plays. And yeah, I thought that the Flames were going to be tougher. They're going to be a little bit more physical to match Nashville, and they didn't do it. A lot of teams have figured out how to stop Nashville in the neutral zone, and you can stop them in the neutral zone. They can't do anything, and they weren't doing that. I mean, Nashville was controlling entries left and right, which is something they don't normally do. And so it was very surprising just because I think a lot of people, myself, who's not as educated, but had a little bit more different expectations for Calgary, I think. And it just didn't
No, you're
look
not
like what I was
alone.
expecting.
Everyone did. Everyone did. It was, yeah. No, I think that's been one of the more frustrating parts of this season is, you come off the season that you did last year. Sure, you
Mhm.
got eliminated in the second round, but you were down one of your most integral players with Chris Tanev.
Right.
You whatever, not whatever, but you know that there's something going on. Your Jacob Markstrom was clearly tired and
Mhm.
overworked, and then you lose two of your top end players in free agency, and then you do get strong pickups in return,
Mhm.
and you sign Kadri, and you're like, okay, like this is going to be a good year,
Mhm.
and then you go on a 7-game losing streak, and it's just kind of like, oh, this
Yeah.
we're back to this again.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is that there's these, similar with the Predators, Nashville in the offseason, on paper, when they finished the offseason, they should have been a better team than they were last season. I mean, they got rid of they had removed some pieces, that nothing that was too big to, altering. They brought in Ryan McDonough, which, still 6.5 million is still a lot to pay, but he has filled a really good role, especially penalty killing. But you've got a bunch of young guys that have come out and been great. And so, there was really no difference between what the team ended the season with last season and this season. And it just hasn't quite materialized. I mean, there's only been one consistent thing, and that's UC Saros, but we can talk about him later.
Yeah. UC Saros is just one of those players that you can't root against. Even when you
Mhm.
play against him, I'm still like, do the double stack, do the double stack. Like,
Mhm.
he's just so good. And there's nothing I love more than a goalie. Really, I don't even have to continue the sentence. I just love goalies. I think
Yeah.
that they're fascinating.
Mhm.
and with stats, like you can't really truly tell what they're going to do. Like the projections are sometimes so wrong, like with Markstrom, and it's fascinating to me. I don't know. And that's, we're going to talk about some pretty charts next, but man, what a time it's been first half of the season. If you had to rate or grade the Preds, how would you grade them on an A through F scale?
So let's see here. So they are technically above 500. So we'll start with the C just to give them the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, I mean they're quite a little bit over 500, so that's good. Goaltending has been incredible. But the team has taken a long time to put anything together resembling an offense. That's starting to happen towards the end of this break. They went into the break with 3 straight, which they're a very streaky team that goes and wins 2, loses 2, or wins 3 and loses 3.
This sounds so familiar.
Yeah, Philip Forsberg is picking back up, kind of back to where he was, as well as Roman Josi. They're not scoring nearly as much, but I don't think that they're last season was insane for the both of them, so it's kind of hard to match that. But the defense has been uncharacteristically bad. They give up a lot, and they ride the back of UC Saros, and they ride, they make sure that he's going to carry them through the game, because he absolutely, they're not over 500 without him. Although I will say I was very wrong about Kevin Lankinen and how good he's been. So I don't know. I would say maybe just a C-, because they're not a bad team. I can't, say that they're a D just because they are over 500, but they haven't really improved. Their power play last season was like the best they'd ever had in franchise history, which still wasn't like, it was like 7th in the NHL, which says a lot. Yeah. And it's been awful. I think they're 23rd or 24th. No, actually, I think they're 28th. Sorry, in the power play. And so it's not good at all. And they haven't really gotten
chilling with the Flames. That's okay.
Yeah. And so like, there's nothing really with this team that kind of points to say like, this team's going to, start winning, 3 out of 4 of their all their games stand in the season. Like, I don't see that. And I don't, there's only one, you could address that by adding somebody to the deadline, but that's, pushing the ball back and saying, okay, we're not going to rebuild or do anything to get better for the future again. And so they push back, and, people in Nashville are pretty tired of that move. It's kind of time to let things happen. So yeah, C-, I think. And I'm being a little generous, I think, because they started to turn things around.
Yeah. I think that's, based on what I've seen of the Preds and what I've read through, your work and the other writers on the Forecheck, I would say that's a fair assessment. And for the Flames, I'd probably sit them at a solid C.
Okay.
They can pass this course with the prerequisite of a C. You don't get the C+ because you could not and cannot buy a power play goal, no matter how hard they try.
Right.
So, but their penalty kill has been fantastic, and I think one of the stronger parts of this last stretch was finally integrating some of their younger players, the guys from the AHL. And that draws a bigger question of, will they be able to scratch someone like Milan Lucic when the time comes, when, the All-Star break's over and they can really get some stronger second line minutes out of Jacob Pelletier. So
yeah, I was very surprised when they came out in warm-ups in that game and he was in the top 6. I was like, I don't watch them. I'm not as versed, but I was like, that's a choice to have in your top 6, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating. And I know that very rarely Daryl will throw his lines in a blender and switch things up. But, when you see that as your projected line, you just kind of hit your head off the desk and say, all right, we're doing this again. That's fine, whatever.
Right.
And then something happens and you're like, you are so old and so low. Please get out of there.
Yeah.
But Coming up next, we are going to talk about probably one of the more questionable moves that the Preds have made this season, and maybe pick your brain about why it unfolded the way it did and how it got to this. But first, I do want to take a quick break here to talk about our next partner. And we are so excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they are the #1 sports book in America, and that is FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better because they have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. If I can understand what these numbers mean, then you can too. I promise. I'm not a numbers girl. But, I think that it's fantastic because you can download FanDuel right now so you can bet the Super Bowl 57 on, wow, cannot talk. You can bet on Super Bowl 57 with a no sweat first bet, and you'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. That sounds like a no-brainer to me.
Mm-hmm.
So FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line, which I always bet, and I lose. And you can do point spreads to who will score a touchdown. Those are my favorites because it's just kind of fun and silly. Mm-hmm. But you can join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/lockedon to claim your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Is sports betting legal in Tennessee?
It is, trust me, because we've got so many commercials. I
wasn't sure. Do you ever bet on your Dallas Cowboys?
No, I know better than that. Yeah, I think for me, like, I know there was a huge push about us getting into the betting more and stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know that I could sit there and give consistent enough advice that people are going to be like, oh yeah, he makes some good predictions, because nothing ever makes sense to me, especially with Nashville. If I'm gonna bet Nashville, I'm always gonna usually bet against them. Yep. So but also I just I think I have a feeling too, if I dip my toe in, then I won't be able to undip it. So
yeah, that's very fair. That's
mm-hmm.
Trust your gut on that one. Do you think that the Predators front office trusted their gut when they put Tolvanen on waivers?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So as it came from the report was that they were fully expecting him to clear waivers, which he did fall to Seattle, which I believe they were in the like mid-20s in the waiver claim. So they did make it. He did make it, pretty far down the list. But, it was something that he's a guy who's really young. He was a guy who, when he came into the draft, lots of people, I know personally, were just like, he's just a shooter. That's all he is. He's nothing else. He can't skate. He can't play defense. And so the Predators asked him, with John Hines coming in and bringing him up and giving him more time last season, they said, we want you to work on your 200-foot game. And he did. He became a very good defensive player. And this is a guy, he's a big, tall, lanky kid. Not the type of guy that you're going to think is going to be a two-way player, but he focused on it. And yes, his scoring did suffer for it. And that's something that, he could only do so much, especially, sitting in the bottom six, not getting a ton of time. But that there's talent there. Just looking at him, you see his shot and that there's talent there. But he was getting, shuffled all up and down the lineup. He started up with in the first and second line with Forsberg and Granlund. But nobody was really getting much done. And so they thought that it would be safe to send him to Milwaukee again. And sure enough, he got scooped up. And since then it's been kind of unfortunate. So when he got waived, he'd played 13 games for Nashville, had 2 goals and 4 points. So yeah, I'm a little bit, you might be a little bit concerned, but he was getting not very many minutes per game. He was, getting bottom half minutes. In 15 games since going to Seattle, just 2 more games than he played, he's got 8 goals, 10 points. So yeah, and they're using him, he's not doing anything different. They're just letting him do his thing, but he's got a better team around him that's able to clean up his shots, or he's in there, cleaning up shots himself. He's a guy who scored 11 goals in his first 2 full seasons with Nashville, and he's about to match that probably in the next, by the end of February, if not, quicker than that. And so, as a guy who's a first round pick, he was the 30th pick, when they lost in the Stanley Cup Finals. There was this long saga, and people, Nashville fans turning, looking for internet streams to watch him play at Jokerit because of his shot and just how electric of a player he was. And it hurt just because he's a guy that was kind of a fan favorite, and the fan base was, surprisingly, optimistic on him. They knew that he wasn't performing, but they weren't like, this is over. I mean, he's a young kid. He's a really young kid. And so it's hard to sit there and look at that and say they gave up on him, or put him in the waiver wire knowing that, someone might grab him. And that's what happened. And now look what he's doing for Seattle, and Nashville's still struggling, offensively. So you live and you learn, I guess.
Yeah. I think that one of the fun parts of hockey is watching maybe not players from your own team go off and succeed, but like Andre Burakovsky, for instance, he was fine in Washington. He was fine, did his thing, and then and again, another super young guy, and then went to Colorado and kind of had this little resurgence coming to life, and now he's doing great things in Seattle. And it's part of the game. It's a business, as everyone likes to say,
right?
But do you think that the time has come for David Poile to sail away?
Yeah, that's a very common question. And yeah, I think that it's getting to the point where it's hard for me to sit there. If you were to ask me, gun to my head, what is the Predators' plan for the next 3, 4, 5 years?
They don't even know.
I wouldn't be able to tell you. And it's, there are signs of things looking up. There are things that have improved, and there are, like getting guys like Forsberg and Yossi. I mean, they kept these big names. They weren't able to get in on any of the other ones. I know that they were, real interested in grabbing somebody from Calgary last season, but didn't look like it went anywhere. So, but they got the guy. Poile got his guy in Duchesne. Duchesne, Forsberg, Yossi, Saros all had career seasons last year. You had a guy like Tanner Jeannot kind of come out of nowhere, even though he's kind of crashed back down to earth a little bit. You had this kind of season, and all of that, all this history that they, all the records they broke last season kind of amounted to them getting swept, granted by Colorado and without UC Saros, but that was games with Connor Ingram and Big Save Dave. So yeah.
Yeah, so Calgary fans know all about the Big Save Dave playoff experience.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, it's not a good one.
No,
so
but
if you were fortunate enough to miss out on it, it didn't miss much.
Yeah. It's, he was a really nice guy and everything, but you had to feel for him just because I think Saros kind of came into it, and he knew that he was going to have to play out of his mind every night. And I think that maybe, this isn't scientific or, it based in any fact at all, but a guy like Kevin Lankinen comes in, and he was the goaltender with Chicago last year, and they were pretty terrible. And so he's kind of used to playing in front of a terrible defense. And so he's kind of stepped in and handled it. In fact, like he's second in the NHL in save percentage. Kevin Lankinen is. So that's just 11 games, but I mean, that's still really impressive, and not at all. I mean, there's been a pretty big movement among a lot of the people in Nashville to be like, listen, we were wrong about Kevin Lankinen. We were wrong to panic about them. Another player that kind of left, went with nothing coming back was Connor Ingram, waiving him. Yeah. And so, that's worked out. And so it's, you see these things work out, then you see these things that don't, and you just don't know what they're working towards. What would put, if they wanted to go all in, like what 1 or 2 players can make this team, a top 5 team in the NHL. I don't know the answer to that, the way the team's built right now. No. And so, and we just haven't seen any indication of doing something different or rebuilding. They've avoided that term. They said retooling a couple of years back, and But it may just need to be what happens. And, I know that the league and teams are kind of cash strapped as they've been for the past few years. And so you don't want to sit there and put out a bad team, but they've got their guys locked in. So what are they going to do next? Are they going to try and build and be better and mortgage the future on that? Or are they going to commit to that? And I think we're not going to get any movement or change from that with Poile. And it's, he's the only GM they've ever had. So, credit where it's due. He's the winningest GM for a reason. He's, good at his job, but it may just be time to move on. And with one of, with Haslam coming in as an owner and slowly taking over, he may come in and think that he, push for some changes and to see something new. So we're all kind of waiting. We're all waiting to see, does John Hines survive? Does David Poile survive? What's going to happen? I mean, the playoffs will probably be at least, the bare minimum for them, I think. And so we'll see. I'm still not sure what this team can finish like.
Yeah, no. And I feel like most teams who are kind of in a similar position to Nashville should be looking at Vancouver right now and saying, this is what's going to happen in 3 years if we don't make a decision, and not even a decision, but the right decision. So
Vancouver's been one of those teams where it's just like, I'll look at them and be like, okay, I feel a little bit better about the Predators, just like in every aspect, not just like the game, but just every aspect, top to bottom of their organization. It's like, at least we're not Vancouver, because man, what a tire fire.
Yeah, no, it's, it's one of those things where like you really do feel bad for the players, and honestly more so the fans. And it takes a lot for me to feel sorry for sports fans, because we all willingly do this.
We do ourselves.
But, just to like, Vancouver fans are so loyal, and, that's how it is in any Canadian market, really.
Yeah.
Or even non-traditional markets like Nashville. Like, people ride or die for their teams, and I love it, but it's so bad for our health.
Yeah, it is. Definitely is. Bad for our wallets, bad for our health, I mean, like I say that, and, nobody's making me spend money on hockey. No. Nobody's making me do it. At least, for a while now, I've been able to write some of it off on taxes as business expenses. But other than that, it's just like, I don't need the amount of jerseys that are in my closet. I never did. I don't wear them, especially now. Like, I can't even remember the last time I wore a jersey to a game at this point,
Yeah.
And then it's not like I wear them out, when I'm in the civilian world, I'm not wearing it around it very often either. So, but
right.
It's a good thing, though. I mean, you look at a team like Vancouver, and the fans have been unhappy for a long time, and the players are unhappy. The coaches, and the coaching, just name it. With all of the stuff that they went through this summer too. It's not a great look, and the fact that Bo Horvat's got to be just over the moon as far as just getting out of there. Like, going to the Islanders is probably a bonus.
Did you see he was at Disney when he found out?
Oh, that's very good, because that must be like this really is the happiest place on earth, I imagine.
Yeah.
I know he wanted to stay there, his whole career. I know it hurts on some level, but at the same time, it's toxic, and sometimes you just got to get out of it.
Yep, and I'm sure he'll look back at it and be like, oh, maybe I didn't need to stay there my whole life. My whole career.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And Boyle, I'm sure that there will be other GM openings. We rotate through the same men. So you'll find another position somewhere. Maybe in Calgary, because they may Brad Treliving is in a contract year, so you never know. Especially with Daryl Sutter allegedly just wanting to take over the helm. So we'll see.
Be interesting.
Yeah, I think that'll be the day I hand the podcast off to someone else. He's already caused me enough stress. I don't need any more.
I imagine so, yeah.
But I think today we can wrap up with some of these really pretty charts of the Flames' even strength defense in front of the goaltenders. And while I cue those up, I do want to take a quick break again, just to say a special thank you to AG1. Our next partner has a product that I use every day. I started taking AG1 because I just needed to get I I needed to stop taking multivitamins and all these other things, and instead I can just take a scoop in my water and it does the same thing, and it's less expensive because it is AG1 is about $3 a day, and that's cheaper than my coffee. And the importance of a multivitamin is that tons of people, they all take them, and we all see different or want to see different results, and AG1 is a small micro habit with big benefits. So right now, it is time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It is just one scoop in a cup of water every day. If you like your water to taste a little tropical, a little fruity, this is for you. One scoop in your cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. 2, make it easy. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. And all you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership of your health today. Well, I don't have any in my water right now because I take it in the morning, but water is good for you. Stay hydrated, everyone. Yeah, see, exactly.
Always good.
Always. I love water. People, I don't like water. Oh no, give it to me.
Yep.
Whoa. So if you are listening on audio right now, it may be a good chance for you to slide over to YouTube to watch this, and I'll throw those timestamps in the show notes. This way you can see the visual and the charts that we are looking at and dissecting.
Yeah, and so I'll break this down a little bit, and I'll try to be a little descriptive for those of you, because a lot of times you might be on your morning commute. So what we're looking at is from hockeyviz.com. This is Micah Blake McCurdy, who's Ineffective Math on Twitter, which he's fantastic, one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. But he has these impact charts, basically looking at the impact of basically what happens on the ice with a certain player while they're there, while they're not on, and how the offense and defense does compared to league average. So the first thing I wanted to do is, Jess had made an interesting point as we were kind of talking about the episode earlier. The team, Calgary plays different in front of Markstrom than they do with Vladar, so I wanted to go and look and kind of do a little bit of research and saw something a little bit interesting. So looking at Calgary at 5-on-5 with Markstrom, so about 1,500 minutes almost, the defense in front of him is actually 10% better than league average. So they're facing 10% less quality against, so like 2.34 goals against per 60. So that's pretty good, because that's a good amount below league average. And really the only spot that they're really giving up a lot with Markstrom is kind of the top of the crease, right in that area, where you can see that in red. So on this one, because we're looking at defense, the areas that are blue, which is a lot of area here, is good. That means that they are the opponents are, they're doing less from there compared to average. If it's red, that means that they're shooting more from there and they're creating more of a threat, more than the league average. So the defense in front of Markstrom has been pretty good. So now we can go look at Vladar. And you had mentioned, looking at the team and, what the records are, I was very surprised to see, Markstrom, his record and what's been kind of going on. Very, very, he's a guy that I've always liked for the past couple of years and thought that he'd be pretty consistent, but it's been a little bit rough. But if you look at this one now, you see that there's a much bigger red blob there in the middle, and still good for Vladar with almost 850 minutes or so. The Calgary defense is about 5% better than league average. So, again, they're giving up a lot from the top of the circle. It's much bigger. The top of the right circle is also a big problem, I guess, for the Calgary defense. But, if you look right there, straight in front of the net, they're extremely effective at preventing shots from there. So that was really surprising. And, we talked about goaltending and the differences. But, you want to look, and it's a similar story. Goaltending might be keeping, the Flames and the Preds into games. But let's compare now with what UC Saros deals with.
Oh my.
That's exactly it. So you don't have to know these charts. That should tell you the whole picture right there.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening, UC Saros has about 1,700 minutes. In the league right now, nobody has faced more shots against than UC Saros with about 1,243. That is almost That is about 12 more than the second place, which is Connor Hellebuck, but he has 2 less games. Leads the league in saves. Second in the league in goals saved above expected. So just basically based on the kind of shot quality and, goals above replacement, the evolving Wilds, kind of 1 number metric, second in the league. So you can tell he's doing great, but the Nashville defense in front of him is 9% worse than league average. And he's getting it, right there on the slot. There's a small blue area right there in front of him, but his right side and then up the middle, it's just they're getting hammered, just absolutely hammered. And the fact that UC Saros is doing as well as he is, he's 19, 13, and 5, which is, you want a little bit better, but he can only do so much. But it was interesting just because, I think that really highlights what a special thing that he's doing this season. Last year was a great year for him. And then you're just a few years away removed from Pekka Rinne, winning the Vezina. And nobody really thought that the transition would happen this quickly and this well. Nashville's been spoiled in goaltender for a while. And that may be part of the reason why Nashville can't turn the page and rebuild or do anything, because goaltending has kept them alive for, forever now, it feels like. So, you look at that and you see, it's kind of crazy that, he's able to pull this off night after night. He's what, third now in NHL history for most saves in a game. It's just incredible. And watching that game was unbelievable. Just save after save, like he was a machine.
Was that the game where he faced like 70 something shots?
I believe so. And I feel bad that I don't know this now, right off the top of my head. But it was like third. Let me see here. Shots again.
I'm so fascinated by this chart for Saros because it's still red pretty high up in like more towards the blue line. So like opponents are kind of just taking shots as soon as they entered the zone. Is that what I'm gathering from this chart here?
Somewhat. So yeah, Nashville's a team with their offense. There's no rush offense to Nashville, really. They're getting better at it, but really they focus on the forecheck, and they are, they're really getting hard and heavy on them. They're trying to create turnovers. So when the team gets in, they don't have much of a hard time getting set up. So it's, looking at the middle of the chart right in front of Saros and to his right. They're really getting after him once they're in. But, on the occasions that they're able to slow them up in transition, we do see some of those shots from the outside, which, was something that John Hines came in and actually did a pretty good job of last year, which was Nashville was going to allow a lot of shots against, but they were going to be from further out. They're going to let them have, give up volume, to give a better quality. And that's not happening
Calgary
at all.
Flames hockey.
Yeah. And so, it's not great. So yeah, here's the number. So UC Saros is now tied for third in NHL history. He had 64 saves against Carolina on January 5th. The NHL record is by the best name I've ever heard in hockey, Ron Tugnut. He had 70 back in 1991. And then there's 65 and 81. And he's tied with somebody who did it in 1970. So nobody has done it since, I think Ben Scrivens did it back in 2014 for Edmonton. He had 59, but 64 is just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's insane to me. I give goalies a lot of credit. I was a soccer goalie and, as a child, so I was facing all those high quality, high danger shots from those little 5 and 6 year olds. But, I think to do it at this high of a level professionally, consistently,
right,
and just the quality at how great he's doing it, I think that's spectacular. And yeah, Nashville is spoiled when it comes to goaltending.
It really is. It's really impressive to see his career just continue, him to just refine himself and get a little bit better and refine himself and get a little bit better. And they put him in the starting role for the first time. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to have a great year. And, they handled the goaltending transition very well. Pekka Rinne is still technically on the staff as a goaltending advisor. And with the guys they've got in, Lankinen, he's kind of a temporary, Yaroslav Askarov, not quite ready. doing pretty good. He is an AHL All-Star, so that, that's awesome. But he's raw. It's not time. He did, he looked pretty decent in his one game for Nashville and kind of an emergency role. But you can tell he's a young kid. Got the most personality of any goalie I've seen so far, which is excellent. I really hope, because he's one of those guys that you can see it in Milwaukee, you can see it in Nashville, and even when I was at camp, the man will, if he knows you're taking a picture, he's going to mug for the camera every single time. I love it. Yeah, I mean,
he's more players like that.
And I really hope that doesn't change. The NHL doesn't beat that out of him.
No, they have so many players that give us nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The least they can do is start embracing this bare minimum of a personality.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what we ask for.
Well, who are your goaltender personalities now? I mean,
Jeremy Swayman.
Yeah, or like on the other side of the spectrum, you've got like Jordan Binnington. So it's
Where do you want to fall on this spectrum?
I mean, yeah, it's like you don't have much choices. You don't have Hank anymore. It's kind of like you don't have Luongo. The fun goalies, you need some of that still. And I think Askarov will be that, but he's carrying a little bit more weight. But I think with Juuse Saros and him being pretty young, he's got time. They can take their time with him like they did with Juuse Saros. So
yes. Well, best of luck to anyone that has to, watch both of these teams on a regular basis, honestly. But, I would kill to go to a Nashville game. I'm eventually trying to line up my calendar, especially now that I'm done with school.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'll get down there soon enough. But Bryan, is there anything else you want to say or throw in before we wrap up this shindig?
Yeah, I feel like I've been pretty negative. I know I did gush over Saros for a bunch, but I'll do a couple of quick, things that I've really liked. Cody Glass has been a really good story. He kind of made, got on the national radar when they did the, behind, what was it called? The NHL's, behind the scenes thing. And they showed him making the team so he could go over to Prague. That was a really great scene. And he'd started out, kind of great, but he struggled. And so he got, pushed down, he got scratched a few times, but he's come back and now he's centering Philip Forsberg and Matt Duchene. And they're doing fantastic with him. I mean, he's been extremely, he's not scoring quite at that rate that you would, want a first line center to do, but now, Nashville's kind of struggled with having a first line center for a while. I mean, 7 goals, 18 points, but that's in 38 games. And that's a guy who was kind of deemed a failure as a prospect in Las Vegas. And we're starting to see him come into his own. And I think he really has kind of found his confidence. So that's been really great to see. I think the other thing I've talked about a lot, and again, all credit to Eric Dene, fellow writer on the Forecheck covers prospects. He's been nobody, I don't think, outside of the Predators organization, nobody knew as much or was high on Juuso Parssinen as Eric has been for the past few years since they drafted him in the 7th round. This kid he made the team. He almost made the team out of camp. A lot of kind of rumors were that he almost made the team there out of camp, but he has been a phenomenal player. I mean, for a guy that kind of came out of nowhere, he looks the part already. He's physical. He's a dangerous scorer. He's been fantastic. I mean, he's 5 goals, 21 points, and this is just in 34 games as, again, a 7th round pick a few years back. And so, he's in the NHL, and you've got a guy like Philip Tomasino in the AHL right now. And so it's great to see that. It's great to see a guy like him kind of come out of nowhere, and he's just a bright-eyed, young guy. He's still kind of getting used to being in the NHL, but it's really fun to watch him and see him get better and watch everybody start to take notice of him. So all credit to Eric on that. Again, he was right. And it's been really fun. So those have been a couple of really good surprises and something that, they're young guys. So there are some hope for the future. It's just Definitely. A matter of if they stay around. So,
yeah. So I definitely hope that that's the case here. And, there's some sort of, it's not like it's dark and gloomy in Nashville in terms
No.
But, it's a little overcast. So hopefully these guys are the sun that's going to break the clouds apart. because my goodness, I want to see Nashville be truly competitive again. I think that it's so great to see, these late, 6th, 7th round guys get drafted and really blossom. The Flames know all about that. Dustin Wolf, who is just tearing it up as a fantastic goaltender in the AHL right now. He was a 6th or 7th round pick, and late bloomers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think here. Saros, I think he was a late rounder too. I think he was like a 4th rounder, and then Pecorine was an 8th rounder, which doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't. He was convinced when they called him that they were calling him to get a hold of another player on his team, because he was like, they're not picking me. So
oh my God.
yeah, and so the rest is history. It took him a long time. He had a long career, but I mean, if there's going to be a player, I think if there's the first player I think from Nashville that'll make the Hall of Fame, hopefully, will be Pecorine. It'll, I think Roman Josi might have something to say, but we're way long away from that discussion.
Yeah.
But I think, Pecorine is one of those ones where, he doesn't have a cup, and so that's going to count against him. But to do what he did for so long and then to have as good of a year as he did so late in his career was really impressive to watch. So,
yep. Nothing but love for Pecorine. Honestly, he's one of the main reasons I started following Nashville as closely as I did. I love him.
We all do.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see, I don't know. I haven't heard any update on the statue that they're supposed to be building. I'm very excited to hear. I mean,
where would they put it? Would they put it in
right there? Probably. I'm guessing it's going to be right there. And then, on the corner.
Okay.
Yeah. So Broadway and 7th, maybe, I think it is. So
yeah, because that's where they do the car smashing stuff.
Yeah, so they'll probably put it further out from where they do the car smash, but it'll be right there. I mean, that's probably I can't imagine it going anywhere else. Maybe that's probably going to be it. And so we're going to see. It's really nerve-wracking because you're like, you really hope it's going to we good.
Yeah.
Because a bad statue will live forever, and it'll get memed to hell, and so we hope it's going to be good, but I imagine that they're putting in, they hopefully they did their homework on it.
I know, fingers crossed.
Right.
My goodness. Maybe that's when I'll take a trip to Nashville when it's there.
I was going to tell you, Nashville has end of the season all the way in April 10th. They're like 3rd to last game is no, they're at Calgary. Dang, never mind.
Yeah, I could get my passport.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah. But yeah, anytime.
Drive across Canada.
I was gonna say, anytime you want to come out, we'll make sure you get taken care of. So, like I said, I tell everybody, I can't get you free tickets. I can't get myself free tickets, but we'll figure something out.
Yeah, I have no problem sitting in the last row of
Oh, it's so much fun.
I love the balcony seats at TD Garden. It's nuts.
Yeah, I'm so used to it now because I didn't ever, sit up front or sit up close very often anyways. But now, because I'm permanently at the top of the arena, it's just I sit up close and I'm like, oh, this is much different.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting on the glass when I go to LA and the Flames play the Kings, and I'm like, oh,
that's
God.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool.
I'm really excited. But, everyone that's listening right now, thank you for sticking around. Make sure you support on the forecheck wherever their new home will be.
Appreciate that.
Of course, you guys are absolutely fantastic, and seeing the news of those media cuts is it's brutal, and especially so many established journalists in the field have gotten their start from SB Nation as a launch pad, and it's just been it's not
it's and it's rough. It is rough, and you look at it, and from a business standpoint, it's there's a lot that doesn't make sense to me and to other people, but it is I think it's the people that are doing this, because you look at on the forecheck, and we have our guys that are young guys out of high school or early in college, and they want to be sports writers. We like Eamon and Jeff. These guys are just the most talented young writers I've ever seen in my life, and those guys are there. But there's also, people like me who didn't start watching hockey until I was like in, almost 30.
Yeah.
And here I am 4.5 years later, going to games, interviewing players after the game. It's crazy to me. And it's literally because of me tweeting at the On the Forecheck account just nonstop with stuff until they were finally like, do you want to like help with something? So you'll stop. And yeah, so there it is. But I mean, there's people like me, there's people like Anne who, Anne is doing such a great job. Her and Nick at Locked On Predators, they're fantastic. It's like really one of the only hockey podcasts I listen to. And so, they do a great job, but these, Nick's worked in media and things like that. But Anne's kind of like me, we're both parents, kids are a little bit older. People like Sean, who used to be with us, the same thing. He's a teacher. A lot of this is a first chance for a lot of people, but it's not just a first chance for like young writers or people that are coming out of journalism school. It's for anybody. And, you look at some of the great people that have come out of it, not a lot of the stories kind of look like mine do, but it's, there's that chance that it can come from somewhere, and that people who, build something or do good enough of a job, that's what On the Forecheck did for me and for a lot of people. And so I am very thankful for that experience. We're really hoping to keep pushing on. I think a lot of us are just kind of, they can take, they can take this away from us, from our cold dead hands. So we're going to try and figure something out. But so just, keep an eye out. I think there's only going to be 6 hockey websites left managed by Vox and SB Nation. So, they feel bad. I feel bad for them because they're having to soldier on after all this. And I wish them the best. I wish them no ill will. I hope they go out there and succeed and ball out. That would be fantastic, but just, reach out, support, make sure you're reading people. I know a lot of people are probably going to, move to do something else. Some people may start doing their own thing or just, not do it anymore completely. Yeah. But if you see somebody out there, trying something new, kind of restarting what we were like, okay, I guess we're doing something completely different now. Go out there and give them a shout, give them a follow, see what you can do. A retweet can do a lot. So I appreciate you saying something.
Yeah, of course. It costs nothing to support and share work. I got my start writing for Fansided and other independent blogs, and literally accidentally stumbled into this podcasting gig. And, it's not a linear path by any means for anyone in this field. And, this isn't my full-time job, but it's something that a lot of us can look forward to.
Yeah, definitely.
Like being able to just have 3 hours a night watching hockey and people want to listen to what I have to say. People want to read what I like. That's like the best form of validation. And
it really is. It's really cool. Just, like when you get the random, tweet out of nowhere where someone just wants to ask you a question, that's really cool. And I think the thing that also, the bigger thing that I think is from all of this is that these types of sites kind of represented a place for literally anybody to get started. And I say this a lot, and people tell me to stop being, they're like, well, don't pick on yourself. And I don't see it as much as this, but I really do mean, like, if I can end up doing what I'm doing right now in the position that I am, like literally anybody can. Like if you're younger, you're older, I've had, a lot going on in the last few years and trying to balance them, got 2 kids, did it through COVID. It's something that if you're passionate about it, if it's something you enjoy talking about and doing it, to put yourself out there. Yeah. I hate that there's less places for people to go and to get their start. We've really enjoyed bringing people on and watching them blossom and then going on and moving up to other great things. And that's going to be the part I miss, is the young people that come through, or the people who are just getting their start and really, really pushing them. I mean, it seems like a year and a half ago, like I was doing a podcast with Anne, and it was like one of the first times she had ever done it. And she was just like, I'm not sure what I'm doing. I'm like, Anne, you're going to be fine. Yeah. And now look at her. Oh, now look at her. So it's out there, get out there. If you're passionate, if you think that you could sit there and talk for 30, 40 minutes, do it.
Yep.
You'll get noticed.
And my DMs are open. If anyone really ever wants to come on, I will sit here. I talk to myself 5 days a week for this show. So if someone else wants to come on and be like, Can we spitball some like flame? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's talk. Let's talk all about hockey. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is, even though things are shifting and kind of really changing in the landscape of sports and independent starting up journalism, I can't even talk. But, the people who got their start there and have kind of built something for themselves there will always hold the door open for you.
Yeah.
Will
That's been the best
happily
part.
show you new things. And that's one of my favorite things about, obviously becoming one of your friends, but also being like a colleague and like
Mm-hmm.
being able to say, what the hell does this mean? What
Yeah.
does this number mean? Like, I don't know. Like, there's very few people that I know I can message and be like, what does this letter next to this number, another capital letter, mean?
Exactly. I
You
mean,
lose me with throw in the alphabet.
but I mean, like that's when I was starting, I was DMing everybody, asking
Mhm.
questions, everybody, and everybody was super nice about it. Like it was
Oh,
probably annoying, but everybody was really nice about it. And it's people like to be able to teach and to share knowledge and stuff. I mean, I don't think there's very much like competition out there. Especially with things like stats or anything else, people want to share what they know, and it's such a fun experience. So, make sure you give it a try, and you could be, and we could be the DMs, and you could come in and annoy us, and then you're the one who tells this story 4 or 5 years from now.
Exactly. And as long as you're polite and you don't make things weird, I am
Just
very
be cool.
happy. Yeah, just don't feel like I don't know, like I used to panic messaging like larger writers and stuff and be like, "Oh my god, like this is so weird." No, I'm a human being that
Yeah.
yells shoot the puck
Mm-hmm.
on my couch. Like don't
Yeah.
nothing to be intimidated or worried about. I sift through my message requests once in a while, but if I see
Mm-hmm.
one, I'll there's certain ones that pop up and like, "Oh yeah, let me get that."
Yeah.
But, it's always good chatting with you, Bryan.
Oh yeah, I really appreciate you having. I know I've been bugging you for a while, and schedules have been tough, but I've been looking forward to coming on here with you for a long time. You're awesome. Your work you do is great. And there's a good side to all these things. Things happen.
Mhm.
Maybe a lot of us will get time to cover something or do some work in hockey that they haven't had time to yet. And maybe it might open up another opportunity in a different part of hockey. So who
Yeah,
knows?
exactly. You never know. I'm so excited for, the positives that come out of this and hopefully some strong developments
Mm-hmm.
in the writer development field. And I don't know. I feel like sports journalism is just such a wild ride, and I've been doing it for almost 6 years now, and I swear it's not even close to the same as it was when I
Well, I
started.
imagine so. But
I feel
again,
so old talking like that, but like things change and they change fast. So thank you everyone for sticking around and tuning into today's episode of Locked On Flames. It's always a pleasure, and make sure you follow Bryan on Twitter at BRYANBASTIN.
love it.
People in their car, they're not going to be able to know that it's with a Y and not an I.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. I appreciate that.
Of course. And of course, follow Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, and I will see you tomorrow.